Okay, I've got a story for you that'll warm your heart and make you believe in the unexpected. Imagine a farmer, his dreams of prosperity fading like the evening sun, stumbling upon a clutch of mysterious black eggs. Could these ebony orbs be a curse, or the miraculous answer to his prayers? This is the story of Arthur, a man whose life in the American heartland was about to be turned upside down by the most unexpected of discoveries. Arthur McDowell was a man whose hands knew the language of the soil. His farm, a sprawling stretch of land nestled in a sun-dappled valley in rural Kentucky, had been in his family for 3 generations. He'd grown up chasing fireflies in its meadows and learning the rhythm of the seasons from his father, a man as sturdy and dependable as the ancient oaks that bordered their property. Arthur had inherited not just the land, but a deep-seated love for it and a quiet ambition to see it flourish, especially his chicken and egg business. He dreamed of a day when McDowell eggs would be a name synonymous with quality, sought after at farmers markets across the state, and perhaps even beyond. But dreams, as Arthur was learning, had a way of colliding with harsh realities. The past few years had been a relentless storm of challenges. The once proud fences sagged in places, patched with mismatched wire and hope. His flock of Rhode Island Reds and Plymouth Rocks, once a vibrant, clucking multitude, had thinned over the years, a stark reflection of his dwindling profits. The feed store owner, a kindly man named Henderson, had started to look at him with a sympathetic but firm gaze when the bills came due. Feed prices had climbed higher than a startled rooster, and the competition from large-scale commercial farms, with their anemic, mass-produced eggs, was fierce. The demand for his honest, farm-fresh brown and white eggs, while appreciated by a loyal few, just wasn't enough to keep the ledger in the black. His shoulders, once broad and straight, now carried the invisible weight of mounting debts and the quiet fear of failing a legacy. Each sunrise brought a fresh wave of anxiety, a knot in his stomach that even his wife Martha's strong coffee couldn't quite dissolve. One sweltering afternoon in late July, with the cicadas buzzing their relentless song, Arthur was mending a section of fence at the far edge of his property, a place where the cultivated fields gave way to wilder, overgrown pasture. He was muttering to himself about the price of lumber when his boots snagged on something half-hidden in the tall, sun-bleached grass. Cursing softly, he bent down, expecting a gopher hole or a stubborn root. Instead, his eyes fell upon a sight that made him freeze, the hammer slipping from his calloused hand. There, nestled in a shallow depression in the earth, was a clutch of eggs. But these were no ordinary eggs. There were about a dozen of them, perfectly formed, yet they were an astonishing matte black. Not a speckled black or a dark brown that might look black in the shadows, but a deep, true ebony like polished obsidian. Arthur had seen his share of eggs in his 50-odd years. Pale blue from his Araucanas, creamy white from his Leghorns, rich brown from his Orpingtons, but never, ever anything like these. He knelt, his heart thumping a strange rhythm against his ribs. He reached out a hesitant finger and touched one. It was smooth, cool despite the day's heat. A shiver, not entirely unpleasant, ran up his arm. His first thought, a primal instinct, was snakes. Black snake eggs, perhaps? He scanned the surrounding grass, his eyes darting, half expecting to see a sinuous form slithering away. But the area was still, save for the drone of insects. Besides, these eggs felt too substantial, too bird-like in their shape and texture. Could it be a prank? Some local kids with a can of black paint? But the color was too uniform, too deeply ingrained in the shell itself. It didn't look painted. Arthur was a practical man, not given to flights of fancy. But standing there, under the vast Kentucky sky, with these impossible eggs at his feet, a strange mix of emotions churned within him. There was apprehension, certainly. What creature could have laid such things? But beneath the fear, a tiny, almost forgotten spark of curiosity, and something else, a whisper of a hope so audacious he barely dared to acknowledge it. His farm was failing. He was tired of the worry, the endless struggle. What if these eggs were something special? He looked around. There was no sign of a mother bird, no nest to speak of beyond the simple depression. They seemed abandoned. The thought of leaving them there, to whatever fate awaited, felt wrong. But the thought of taking them home, of incubating these alien things, was daunting. What if they hatched into something monstrous, something dangerous? He pictured Martha's face. Yet the gambler in him, the part that still clung to the dream of a thriving farm, nudged him forward. What if these weren't a curse, but a blessing in disguise? What if they hatched into birds so unique, so sought after, that they could turn his fortunes around? People paid a premium for novelty, for the exotic. His conventional brown and white eggs were barely keeping him afloat. Perhaps the unconventional was the answer. After a long moment of internal debate, the image of his thinning flock and the sympathetic eyes of Mr. Henderson tipping the scales, Arthur made his decision. He carefully gathered the black eggs, cradling them gently in his large, weathered hands as if they were made of the most delicate porcelain. He carried them back to the farmhouse, his mind a whirlwind of questions and a burgeoning, fragile hope. He mumbled a quick, almost apologetic sorry to whatever creature might have laid them, then carefully loaded them onto the seat of his old pickup truck, cushioning them with his work jacket. Back at the farm, he set them up in the incubator he kept in the barn, a device usually reserved for his own chicken breeds. He meticulously adjusted the temperature and humidity, his brow furrowed in concentration. He knew the standard settings for chicken eggs, but for these were an enigma. He could only hope for the best. The following days turned into a ritual of anxious anticipation for Arthur. Every morning, before the sun had even thought about cresting the Appalachian foothills, he would be in the barn, checking on the eggs. He'd inspect the temperature gauges, adjust the humidity with a precision born of desperation, his heart lifting a little at the sight of the smooth, black shells, still intact, still holding their secret. He candled them, a faint light passing through, revealing the telltale signs of life within some. But their dark shells made it difficult to be certain. He dared to dream. He imagined strange, beautiful birds emerging, creatures that would draw crowds and fill his coffers. Would they be completely black? What would they sound like? In his quiet moments, when the farm was asleep, Arthur envisioned buyers flocking to McDowell Farm, each eager to pay top dollar for a glimpse, for a chance to own one of these marvels. He saw himself standing tall again, the worry lines on his face smoothed away, Martha smiling beside him. But despite his growing excitement, a cautious undercurrent remained. He knew there was still a long way to go before the eggs hatched, if they hatched at all. What if they didn't belong to chickens? What if he had unknowingly endangered his entire farm, his family? The uncertainty gnawed at him. The expected hatching date, based on a typical chicken's incubation period, came and went. Nothing. Not a crack, not a peep. Each day, Arthur checked the incubator, his heart a little heavier, his hope a little dimmer. The black shells remained still, silent, mocking his vigil. Tension built within him like a gathering storm. The longer he waited, the more his doubts began to fester. Had he been wrong to bring these eggs into his home? The relentless worry and sleepless nights began to take their toll. Arthur, a man who had rarely seen a sick day in his life, woke one chilly morning feeling unusually weak. His head throbbed, and his body ached with a fever that left him shivering despite the layers of blankets Martha piled on him. He tried to push through the discomfort to attend to his chores, but it quickly became clear that he was too ill. Martha, her face etched with concern, insisted he stay in bed. Days blurred into a hazy existence for Arthur. He lay in bed, his mind foggy with fever, listening to the distant, muted sounds of the farm. The farm, once bustling with his activity, began to show signs of neglect. Weeds crept into the vegetable garden. The chicken coops became untidy, and the feed bin started to run low. The regular egg production dwindled as Martha, already burdened with caring for him, struggled to keep up with everything. It was then that Jack Sullivan, Arthur's longtime friend and neighbor, a man with a heart as big as the Kentucky sky, noticed something was amiss. He hadn't seen Arthur around for a few days, which was unusual. He ambled over one afternoon, his weathered face creased with friendly concern. Finding Arthur bedridden and Martha overwhelmed, Jack didn't hesitate. He quickly took charge, his practical farming knowledge a godsend. He assured Arthur he would take care of the farm while he recovered, urging him to rest and regain his strength. Jack threw himself into the work. He tended to the chickens, cleaned the coops, and made sure the animals were fed. He even reached out to a few other neighbors, and soon a small, tight-knit community effort was underway to keep McDowell Farm running. In his weakened state, and with so much else on his mind, Arthur had forgotten to tell Jack about the mysterious black eggs in the incubator. 2 more days passed. Arthur was slowly beginning to feel a bit more like himself, the fever finally breaking. One evening, as Jack was finishing up the day's chores, a task made easier with the help he'd rallied, he heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible peeping sound coming from the corner of the barn where the incubator hummed quietly. His heart skipped a beat. He knew Arthur hadn't set any of his own eggs recently. With a flashlight in hand, curiosity overriding his fatigue, Jack approached the incubator. He scanned the rows of familiar brown and white eggs from other small farms he was also helping out. He was that kind of neighbor. And then his beam fell upon the separate tray, holding Arthur's mysterious black orbs. The sound grew louder, more insistent. He peered closer, and his breath caught in his throat. A tiny crack had appeared on one of the black eggs. Then another, and he could see movement inside. He was shocked. Where on earth had Arthur found such strange eggs? He rushed back to the farmhouse, his boots thudding on the porch, to tell his friend the incredible news. "Arthur, Martha, you won't believe this. Those black eggs, they're hatching." Arthur, though still weak, felt a surge of adrenaline. He and Jack, with Martha looking on anxiously, knelt by the incubator, their faces inches from the hatching eggs. Then, the first chick emerged. It was astonishing. Both men let out a sigh of relief when they realized the animals inside the eggs were indeed birds. But the sigh turned into an excited gasp as they took in the chick's features. Its feathers were a glossy, jet black that shimmered in the dim light of the barn. Even its tiny beak and legs were black. The chick's eyes blinked open, small, dark, and incredibly alert, and it let out a small, triumphant chirp. One by one, the other eggs began to hatch, each revealing another perfectly black chick. Each chick was a marvel, with sleek black feathers and bright, curious eyes. The hatching process was mesmerizing. The chicks struggled and fought their way out of the shells, displaying a resilience that seemed to reflect Arthur's own journey. He watched, transfixed, as the last chick finally broke free. Jack, ever the pragmatist, quickly whipped out his smartphone and, after a few moments of tapping and scrolling, his eyes widened. "Arthur," he breathed, his voice tinged with awe. I think these might be Ayam Cemani chicks." Arthur turned toward him with a questioning frown. He had no idea what Ayam Cemani chicks were. Chuckling, Jack explained, "They're an Indonesian breed, Arthur. Extremely rare and sought after. They're famous for being entirely black. Feathers, beak, skin, even their bones and internal organs are black. They call them the Lamborghini of poultry because of how valuable they are." He showed Arthur pictures on his phone of majestic, entirely black roosters and hens. Their eggs, their meat, people pay astonishing prices for them. And I mean astonishing. Jack was also sure that people would pay just to take a look at the chickens themselves, given their rarity and striking appearance. Arthur couldn't understand how these exotic eggs had ended up on his humble Kentucky farm. It was a mystery he might never solve. But as he looked at the tiny, energetic black chicks, he was pretty confident they would take all his financial problems away. At that moment, Arthur's emotions overwhelmed him. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he didn't try to stop them. He had fought so hard and sacrificed so much, facing despair and the brink of failure. And now, at last, fate had bestowed upon him a chance to thrive, a chance to see his lifelong dream realized. He held the promise of a brighter future in his hands, all thanks to these miraculous blackbirds. The sight of the Ayam Cemani chicks, so rare and so beautiful, brought a profound sense of relief and joy. He wept openly, his tears falling onto the straw-covered floor of the barn, the reality of the moment sinking in. His farm had been on the brink, but these little black miracles were its salvation. The black eggs had finally hatched, marking the beginning of a new, prosperous chapter for McDowell Farm. The news of the hatching and the extraordinary nature of the chicks spread like wildfire through the small farming community and then further afield. Neighbors who had supported Arthur during his illness flocked to the farm, not just to offer congratulations, but to witness the extraordinary Ayam Cemani chicks. They were in awe. Their jet-black plumage and stunning, almost otherworldly appearance left everyone gasping in admiration. Arthur's renewed hope was not just about financial stability. It was about the dream he had almost lost, the passion he had poured into his work for decades. The Ayam Cemani chicks symbolized a fresh start, a chance to rebuild and grow. As he watched the chicks explore their new world in a specially constructed, warm enclosure, pecking at the straw with an almost regal air, Arthur felt a sense of fulfillment he hadn't known in years. He carefully tended to the chicks, ensuring they received the best care. He documented their growth, taking notes on their development and behavior. Their sleek black feathers gleamed in the sunlight that streamed into the barn, and their curious, lively nature brought a new energy to the farm. But it wasn't long before Arthur began to notice something extraordinary about one of these already extraordinary chicks. It was slightly larger than the others, its feathers even more pronounced in their iridescence, shimmering with hints of green and purple when the light was just right. But the most captivating feature was its eyes. Unlike the dark, almost black eyes of the other Ayam Cemani, this particular chick possessed a striking, vibrant shade of sapphire blue. Intrigued, Arthur decided to take a closer look. He carefully examined the chick. Its blue eyes, set against the stark black of its feathers, were mesmerizing. Arthur's heart skipped a beat again, this time with a new kind of wonder. He realized he might have stumbled upon something even more extraordinary. He quickly contacted a renowned avian geneticist, Dr. Albright, who specialized in poultry, explaining his discovery. The geneticist, initially skeptical but intrigued by Arthur's earnest description, agreed to visit the farm. Dr. Albright arrived a few days later and, after carefully examining the blue-eyed chick and conducting a series of tests, the results were astonishing. The chick, Dr. Albright explained, possessed an incredibly rare genetic mutation, a variation never before documented in the Ayam Cemani breed. This mutation not only resulted in its stunning blue eyes, making it even more visually breathtaking, but also appeared to endow it with increased resilience and a marginally faster growth rate. The chick was, in essence, a perfect, and perhaps even enhanced, specimen of the Ayam Cemani breed. Its qualities were unparalleled. News of the extraordinary blue-eyed Ayam Cemani chicks spread quickly, drawing attention from far beyond the local community. Collectors, exotic bird breeders, and poultry enthusiasts from across the country, and even internationally, clamored to see and potentially acquire this unique bird. The demand skyrocketed. Offers poured in, each one higher than the last, for the chick itself or for its future offspring. The revelation of this unique genetic mutation, a beautiful accident of nature, ensured that Arthur's farm would remain at the forefront of the rare poultry market for years to come. With the value and demand for his Ayam Cemani chicks, especially the lineage of the blue-eyed wonder, firmly established, Arthur's long-term success and the farm's sustainability were assured. Mr. Peterson, the wealthy investor who had heard the initial rumors about the black chickens, was among the first to make a serious offer. He had a keen interest in rare and exotic breeds and had been following the whispers about McDowell Farm. When he finally visited and saw not only the flock of perfect Ayam Cemani, but also the legendary blue-eyed chick, he was immediately captivated. He admired their unique beauty and noted their impressive health and vigor. He turned to Arthur, his eyes gleaming with interest. "Mr. McDowell," he said, his voice respectful, "these chicks are extraordinary. I've never seen anything quite like them, especially this blue-eyed one. I can see the care and dedication you've put into them." Arthur felt a surge of pride. He agreed that they were special and explained, with a tremor in his voice, that he'd put everything into raising them, into saving his farm. Mr. Peterson nodded thoughtfully. "I can see that," he said. "I believe these birds hold tremendous potential, not just for breeding, but also for appealing to niche markets that value their rarity and beauty enough to pay a significant premium. I'd like to propose an offer to you, a partnership." Arthur's heart raced as Mr. Peterson outlined his proposal. He was willing to invest substantially in McDowell Farm, providing the financial support needed to expand and improve operations, to build state-of-the-art facilities for these prized birds. In return, Mr. Peterson wanted to share in the future profits from the Ayam Cemani sales and breeding programs. The offer was generous, more than Arthur could have ever hoped for, and would secure his financial future. Above all, it would ensure the farm's stability and growth, preserving the McDowell family legacy. Arthur listened carefully and weighed the offer. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for, a chance to not only save his farm, but to see it thrive beyond his wildest dreams. With a firm handshake and tears of gratitude, once again threatening to spill, Arthur accepted the proposal. A weight he hadn't fully realized he was carrying lifted off his shoulders. The partnership with Mr. Peterson meant that his Ayam Cemani chicks would bring prosperity and recognition to his farm on a scale he'd never imagined. Each day, Arthur would stand in the coop, watching the majestic black birds peck at the ground, their iridescent feathers catching the light, and a profound sense of fulfillment would sweep over him. Against all odds, he had not only rescued his farm, but transformed it into a beacon of hope and success, a testament to perseverance and the magic of a few mysterious black eggs. He had faced hardship with courage, embraced the unknown with a sliver of hope, and in return, life had gifted him a treasure more valuable than he could ever have measured in dollars alone. It had given him back his dream, polished and more vibrant than ever before.